Hello everyone, and welcome back to CM50, the video edition. In this video, we'll be expanding on Unit 17 of CM50, which covers auxiliary verbs. Now, what is the function of auxiliary verbs? Well, as mentioned on page 27, Unit 17.1, they are used with a main verb to show tense, mood, voice, or some other grammatical aspect. And as they're used with a main verb, they are sometimes called helper verbs. So the three auxiliary verbs we'll look at in this lesson are can, 会, can, 可以, can, 能. So as we can see, three words that will be translated into the same word in English, but they have different meanings and functions. First of all, let's focus on 会. This means can, but it indicates that a person can do something as a result of learning an ability. So, for example, playing the piano. This is a learned ability. No one is born being able to do this. So we would use 会 to describe this ability. She can play the piano. 她会弹钢琴. In other words, she has learned this ability. Now remember that auxiliary verbs are helper verbs, so they help the main verb. So in this sentence, the main verb is play. 弹, 会弹, can play. 她会弹钢琴, she can play the piano. What about speaking Chinese? Well, this too is a learned ability, even for native speakers. Again, no one is born with this ability. Either native or non-native, they both have to learn to speak Chinese. And so we can say, he can speak Chinese. 他会说普通话. He has learned this ability to speak Chinese. And here the main verb is 说,会说,他会说普通话. He can speak Chinese. Now, what if the person cannot speak Chinese? This would mean they have not learned the ability. And so here we would use the negator 不. 他不会说普通话. So note that the negator 不 comes before the auxiliary verb, and this is the case for any auxiliary verb. So 会 refers to a learned ability. We can do something because we've learned that ability. Now, what about 能? Well, let's first have a look at an example sentence. I am free tomorrow, so I can go. 我明天有空，所以我能去. So, why can this person go? Because they have the circumstances. So, they can do something because they have the circumstances. They are free. And this is what 能 is used for. A person can do something because their circumstances allow it. Now, 能 is also an auxiliary verb, and the main verb in this sentence is go or 去. So, what about if a person cannot do something because they do not have the circumstances? Again, we use the negator 不. I am busy tomorrow, so I cannot go. 我明天很忙，所以我不能去. So again, we see how the negator negates the auxiliary verb and not the main verb. Let's have a look at another example. So this poor young chap has broken his leg. His leg is in a cast and he's on crutches. So these are his circumstances. So we can ask the question, can he walk? 他能走路吗? And what we're asking is, do his circumstances permit him to walk? Can he walk given his current circumstances? 他能走路吗? What about if we were to say 他会走路吗? Well, in this instance, it wouldn't be accurate because 他会走路吗 is indicating that we're asking about a learned ability. Has he learned the ability to walk? So in this instance, it wouldn't be correct. However, if we were to see this baby crawling around, then we might very well ask the question, 他会走路吗? So now we are asking, oh, has this little baby learned the ability to walk? So 能 is used for circumstances. Can someone do something given their circumstances? 会 is used to indicate a learned ability. Can someone do something because they have learned the ability? Now, what about 可以? Well, let's go back to this scenario. This person has broken their leg. And so we could also inquire as to the possibility of them walking. So we could say, 他可以走路吗? In other words, is it possible for this person to walk? So 他可以走路吗? Possibility. 他能走路吗? Circumstances. So really, these two are interchangeable in this particular scenario. Can he walk? 他可以走路吗? Is it possible for him to walk? 他能走路吗? Can he walk given his circumstances? So in this kind of sentence, these two words are interchangeable. I can help you move the box. We could say 我可以帮你搬箱子. It's possible for me to do so. We could also say 我能帮你搬箱子, as in the circumstances permit me to do so. So when it's possibility versus circumstances, then 可以 and 能 are interchangeable. They are also interchangeable when asking permission. For example, can I sit here? We can say 我可以坐这里吗? Or 我能坐这里吗? So when asking permission, we can use either 可以 or 能. Now, what about giving permission? Well, firstly, we've learned in previous lessons that to say yes or no, we either affirm the verb or negate the verb. So if someone were to ask, 我可以坐这里吗? To say yes, we would say 可以. To say no, we would say 不可以. But here's the important point. To ask permission, we can either use 可以 or 能. But to give permission, we can only use 可以. We cannot use 能. This would be incorrect. Even if the person asking has said 我能坐这里吗? The only accurate and grammatical response would be 可以 or 不可以. We cannot say 能 or 不能. Again, giving permission, you can go outside and play. 你可以去外面玩. 你能去外面玩 is incorrect because given permission, we can only use 可以. The same is true of making suggestions. If you have questions, you can ask the teacher. So the suggestion is here to ask the teacher. 如果你有问题，你可以问老师. We can only use 可以 in this kind of scenario. We cannot use 能. This would be incorrect. Now let's compare the three auxiliary verbs using the same situation. So, he cannot drive. 他不会开车. He cannot drive. 他不能开车. He cannot drive. 他不可以开车. So in English, these three sentences are the same. But in Chinese, we use a different auxiliary verb. What does each one mean? 他不会开车. This is to do with learned ability. He has not learned how to drive, and therefore he cannot do it. 他不能开车. This relates to circumstances. He has broken his leg, and therefore he cannot drive. And lastly, 他不可以开车. This could be to do with possibility, or it could be to do with permission. His license has been taken away from him, and therefore he cannot drive. He does not have the permission. 他不会开车, he has not learned the ability. 他不能开车, his circumstances do not allow him to do so because he's broken his leg. Or 他不可以开车, he does not have the permission because his license has been taken away. So, there are many auxiliary verbs in Chinese Mandarin. This has been an overview of just 3 of them. As always, plenty more to come in the following units. See you next time.